So some advantages and disadvantages of focus groups. Advantages include that you can get more information due to there being more than one participant, so that you can basically gather other people's ideas and opinions. And also, this is a much quicker way of gathering information because all of the participants they're all together, and so you only need to do one interview rather than having to do each participant one at a time. However, some members of the group may talk too much, and therefore others may not get a chance to voice their own opinions and ideas. And also, it can be harder to write down everything that's being said due to there being so many people that are talking, and it being more like a kind of conversation, like a semi-structured interview, where you don't ask a question and then they speak, and then you ask a question. It's kind of you ask a question, they speak, and then another person might speak, and it's much harder to write down everything that's being said. So the final section of this assignment looks at quantitative data collection methods. And the first way is by carrying out questionnaires. These involve asking participants questions which can either be open or closed. And questionnaires are good because you can distribute them to a wide variety of people for a number of ways, including email, hand, and by post. Questionnaires can be done privately or face-to-face, and are structured depending on the age, the gender, and the ability of the participants that you decide to give them out to. The structure is really important in a questionnaire because the questions that you have need to be easy to understand. Otherwise, the participants can't answer them, and you don't get the data that you want. So some advantages of questionnaires include the fact that you can get a wider variety of participants due to, as we said, the easy distribution methods. And also you can compare the responses that you get and see if there are any similarities or differences between people's answers. However, you can't analyze body language if the questionnaire is done privately. And also when it's done in person, the answers given by the participants may be unnatural due to them feeling they need to give you a kind of specific answer that they think that you want to hear. So another way of collecting data is by doing observations, which involve watching people's behavior either live or on a recording. And similarly to the observations done when collecting qualitative data, quantitative observations can be either covert or overt. The structure, recording, and coding stages of the observations must be considered beforehand in order for the researcher to get the best data that they possibly can. An example of a quantitative observation would be tallying how many times a gymnast performs a rotation on a high bar routine. So some advantages of these observations are that you can see live behavior and then pick out specific things that someone does, depending on what it is that you're looking for within the observation. You can also observe more than one person at once, for example, observing groups or teams, which then again saves you time as you can record numerous behaviors at once, basically. Whereas disadvantages are that it may be hard to view everyone within a larger group unless you record them and then watch it back afterwards. But then another disadvantage is that this can be very time consuming, as you may not want to record them and then watch it back, but you may also not want to observe someone on just one day, as other external factors and confounding variables may have influenced their behavior on that one day, and these factors may not be there on another day, so you may want to carry out the observation over, let's say, a week, and then you're able to put that week's worth of behaviors into one kind of piece of data. So the final way of collecting quantitative data is by conducting experiments. And the first step of an experiment is thinking of a hypothesis, which is kind of like a prediction of what you think will happen in the experiment. You then collect the data and then analyze it. And once the data you've collected has been analyzed, you can then compare it with your initial hypothesis and see whether your predictions were correct. There are two types of experiment that can be done within sport, and these are lab experiments and field experiments. Lab experiments are done in a lab setting where most of, if not all of the extraneous variables will be eliminated. Field experiments, on the other hand, are done in a more natural setting where extraneous variables are less easily controlled. You can also get true experiments, and in these experiments you need three conditions. You need a random assignment of participants into the conditions, you need pre and post treatment tests, and you also need a control group used for comparison. So advantages of lab experiments include data collection being in a more controlled environment, and also the fact that you would usually use more technical equipment, which therefore makes the data more accurate and precise. However, disadvantages are that the data you collect won't necessarily reflect performance in a natural setting, because you have removed those extraneous variables that would be present in the natural setting. And also there's a risk of demand characteristics due to the participants knowing that they are part of an experiment. Advantages of field characteristics, field experiments are that the data collected is more natural. It's because it's in a more natural setting, which means that the results that you gather are more likely to be what would occur during their real performance. And also the fact that there would be a reduced chance of demand characteristics due to the experiment being done in a natural setting, meaning that it's less likely that participants know they're being part of a study. On the other hand, disadvantages include difficulty of controlling the extraneous variables, and the use of less kind of sophisticated equipment, meaning that the accuracy and precision of the results may be lower than those that you collect in the lab. So when conducting an experiment, there are a number of ways in which you can choose how to put participants into conditions. And these are known as your group designs. And there are three main ones that we need to know about. So the first of these is repeated measures, which is where you take the same participants from one condition and you make them take place in the next condition as well. The next is independent groups or independent group design, which is where you have unrelated people or groups take part in one condition each. So you may have a set of participants from one area take part in one condition, and then in the other condition you may have a completely different set of participants from a different area, different genders, different age compared to the other one, and then you compare the two at the end. And then the final design is matched pairs, which involves each group of participants being carefully matched on variables that would be considered relevant in the experiment that's going to be done.